I'm Dennis Sendros. Welcome back to Cocktological Evenings. Today we're talking about gin, and I'm joined by my three lovely guests.
I'm Nick Fabiani. I was told this time not to talk about almond milk.
I'm Michelle Fabiani. I'm very excited to learn more about gin.
I'm Paul Jamali, and I'm a firm believer that men should not wear shorts after dark.
You may have noticed that our circumstances have changed a little bit. We're filming in Reliable Tavern in Petworth, DC. Big props to them for letting us film here. Also, please don't forget to like and subscribe so you can get more news about Cocktological Evenings videos as they come out. So we're going to talk about gin today. What do we each know about gin?
Paul?
Navy? I just think of the Navy. Is that right?
Yeah? Okay.
There is a distillery in Maryland that puts a lot of botanicals into their gin.
I don't remember that. But it's a liquor, right?
It was with her other husband.
Yeah.
Right, fine. It's a liquor, clear, herbal, juniper. These are words.
Something about Spain.
So can you talk to us about what you're making?
I wanted to preserve as much of the fizz as possible. And usually, you shake something and then you pour it out, so there's a little dilution there already. The ice melts and dilutes it more. So what I did here was actually freeze everything as cold as I could before we put it in the glass, so that hopefully as little of that dilution happens as possible. There's lemon juice, gin, ginger syrup, basil syrup. So stir your drink a little bit.
Is there a reason why mine is the way it is? Oops, I had a little spill.
Get out.
This is why you got the pre-bent straw.
Yeah.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Summertime in the city.
That's
Ooh.
very tasty.
Ginger's like strong.
They're very stretchy
Huge
straws.
mistake. Normally when I see basil on a cocktail menu, I'm like, okay, that's gonna be like drinking brine. Like it's gonna end up being a really savory cocktail. And this is not that. It's super refreshing, which I don't normally find in a basil heavy cocktail. Can you tell us about the history of gin?
Yes, I can talk about the history of gin. Thank you so much for asking.
He can, but he won't.
I don't really. I'm fine. I'll just sit here and drink.
So let's talk about gin. Quick definition. Gin is essentially flavored vodka. The way they infuse it can vary. It must contain juniper. When you get to different styles of gin, you've got London Dry, which is heavy on the juniper, and then you've got the New American style, where the juniper gets pulled back, and it's much more citrus and botanical. New American is what we got right now. When it's more juniper forward, it's referred to as a London Dry gin, right?
Oh, that's what a dry gin.
Yeah, I was wondering
Yes.
why.
Okay.
What the difference was.
The other thing you have is a bunch of botanicals, and you can put whatever you want in there, but there are some mainstays, bitter lemon, orange peel. Frankincense is one of them, and in researching this, I learned that frankincense is an aromatic resin that comes from trees. And it's not like a specific franken tree that the scent comes from, right? It can come from many different kinds of trees, and depending on the kind of tree, you get different flavors and aromas from it.
I was really hoping you were going to say that they all got merged together, which is why
Into a franken tree.
Yes. A Frankenstein plant.
Or just
History-wise,
Frankincense. That was really funny. Just took me a second.
So gin, its origins come from Geneva or Genever. That came about like fairly early in the distilling industry days. It didn't taste very good when it started out because we were just bad at distilling things. Like nothing tasted good. You were just drinking it to get drunk at that point. But they added a lot of botanicals to sort of like make the bad taste go away, and juniper was one of them. The juniper berry was added specifically because of its supposed medicinal properties. By the early 1600s, England is ruled by a Catholic monarch, and the Protestants in England are horrified.
Were they Dutch?
No.
Okay.
William of Orange, however, was Dutch.
Fun fact.
Wait.
Yes.
So where's orange?
It's like a state. So there's orange the fruit,
Yes.
orange the color, and also orange the state. Which do you think came first?
So I'd say it's probably the state, right? So this is what I know about it.
Yeah, hit me.
This is also told by a tour guide when I was in Portugal, so I don't really know if this is accurate at all.
How old was this tour guide?
He was old.
Okay.
Basically what he said was, they called them oranges because of the color. So I think whoever had seen them, I think they brought them as like gifts, like for exchanging, and like, oh, well, here's some of this stuff. And then they were like, okay, these are oranges, I guess. I don't know what to call them because that's the color. So I'm gonna go with state, color, and then fruit.
I'm gonna go with 2 separate etymologies.
Yeah.
She's right. So it's
2 or 3?
2.
Okay.
So it's interesting. There was for a very long time a color yellow red, which was
Yellow red?
Yellow red, which is like what they called orange. The fruit has like always been essentially always been called orange, and like that's where it came from. The orange, the state, was like named after some historical mythological thing that was like a separate etymology development than orange, because orange is developed not through like the word definitely ended up having Latin roots and was in like the Romantic languages, but predates that. And this was like related to some mythology thing. And around the same time that they started to call the color yellow, red, orange was also around the same time that the Orange Principality started to use that color as part of their canting, like part of their branding, essentially.
Right.
So it ended like they all ended up being fairly connected, right? Like we call this color orange because of the fruit and also because of this principality that was separately named orange for separate reasons.
And they don't
started to use
So
it.
they don't grow oranges in the Netherlands, right?
I'm sure people do, but no, I don't.
Yeah.
Like I imagine it's not that common.
Yeah, right.
So William of Orange rode in on his white horse and basically conquered England for the Protestant people, right? He became William III there and the King of England. And William III brought in a distilling industry, specifically Geneva, because that's what he was used to. Aristocrats who grew grain in England realized that this could be kind of a cash cow for them, because distilling means a lot of grain. So they started agitating for more lax laws. Also, the French, those dirty, dirty French, who were, and I can't underline this enough, Catholic. They produced brandy, which was the main spirit at the time, like what you really wanted. So there was some lobbying, and a law was passed to promote the distillation of homegrown spirits and tax French brandy. In the beginning, English gin was a lot like Geneva. But as time went on, they started to like decrease the amount of other botanicals, they increased the amount of juniper. It just started to become more popular. It actually led to something called the gin craze. And this was a time when like there were, of the 15,000 drinking shops in London, half of them were gin. It was super cheap. You could like put a penny in a fountain and it would come pouring out a spigot and into your mouth. It was wild
What
times.
a time to be alive.
Wild times in London. If you start to look at like flyers from this area, like in favor of prohibition, you start to see and this becomes a thing of like, oh, the poor and the wretched are like gin is so cheap that they can afford it and they're wasting away their lives, and we have to establish prohibition to stop that from happening. Episode 2 of how class influences alcohol.
Historical facts. During the 1600s and 1700s, piracy was at its peak.
Yeah.
And the countries would hire the privateers, or pirates by the other name, to do a bunch of things, not only to intercept their ships, but also to prevent or to capture liquor, as well as gold and such, to smuggle it in, or to prevent it from being smuggled in. So like the French might have hired privateers to smuggle brandy into the United Kingdom to avoid the imports, and the UK might have also hired or England at the time, might have hired privateers to attack all French ships carrying brandy to avoid it being entering into the country if they were really seriously thinking of prohibition. Oftentimes those ended up going to small islands that had been colonized or conquered at various times by the different countries, like Tortuga. After like the whole prohibition thing sort of ended, all of the countries just were like, okay, well, instead of attacking our own countries, let's attack Tortuga and all these other pirate colonies as the debasement of humanity. Because they are drunk all the time on all of the liquor that they stole.
All the liquor that we hired them to steal.
Yeah.
Can I have another?
No. But I will serve you something else.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Isn't there an urban legend about the coupe glass being molded after some famous lady's breast?
Oh, I see it now. But stemless, I assume.
Yeah.
That'd be weird.
Her nipple was that long?
Yeah.
And flared at the end?
So, What do we have going on here? I saw some gin and some other stuff.
This is the last word. So it's lime, gin, green chartreuse, maraschino liqueur. And it's equal parts of all of those things. It is absolutely my favorite cocktail on the planet. It's really easy to do variations on by just swapping out green chartreuse for yellow chartreuse. Totally different drink, but also very good. Swapping out the lemon for a lime, or swapping out the lime for a lemon, totally different drink, also very good, right? So like, there's a lot that you can play with there.
Don't forget to smile.
Did I not smile last time? Cheers, everyone.
That is very herbal.
I like it.
So that heavy herbalness comes from both the gin and the chartreuse. You've got lime in there. You've got sort of a nutty character that's coming from the maraschino liqueur.
Just like a tiny bit of bitter.
This is the booziest cocktail I'll serve tonight. And that's because 3 of the 4 ingredients are boozy. The chartreuse is like 55% or something like that.
Oh, wow.
I feel like a little bit of a licorice flavor in it.
Yeah, I get a little bit of that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't get the same flavor.
I definitely.
It's like at the very end.
So I actually find it
I like it in the
to
middle.
be very heavy in the smell. Like when I
Yeah.
smell this, I smell licorice. I don't really taste it, but that is what I smell.
I do. Yeah. I kind of get a little bit of it.
Let's talk about Prohibition, and specifically Prohibition within DC. Prohibition in DC started actually 3 years earlier than Prohibition in the rest of the country. DC is a federal district, so Congress can make laws for the district that our city council can't do anything about, DC state. But in 1920, this was the same year as the rest of the country got Prohibition, a gentleman named George Cassaday came back from the war, World War I. And he shows up in DC and he's looking for a job, and his buddy is like, you know what you should do? You should start bootlegging liquor for members of Congress. And he was like, no, wait a minute, that's a bad idea. They signed these laws. And he was like, no, I got some guys. So he brings in 2 dry congressmen. And when I say dry, I do mean like pro-prohibition. And they talk a little bit, they make a deal, he delivers the goods, and they're like, let me introduce you to my friends. He builds an entire network in the House, specifically in the House of Representatives, an entire network. He's selling there for 5 years. In 1920, the very first year he's doing this, establishes a room in the House where he gets the liquor delivered to, and then he like cuts the liquor there. He does like a whole like process before like shipping it out
So he's
to the offices. He's distributing himself
In the
personally
house.
in the House from an office in the House, given to him by like the House, basically, right? Like it's not like they have this surplus of offices. There are 435 members at the time, and there's a single House office building. Apparently, like many of the House members just had drawers, and they were like, if the drawer's empty, just fill it back up. 5 years in, and he's got wet and dry members, right? Like both, he's serving both sides of the aisle, both Republican and Democrat, and wet and dry. He estimates that he sold to 80% of the House at some point or another. So he's selling some members of the Vice Committee who were maybe like actual dry people and actually, you know, strong in their conviction here, get on his tail about this, and they start getting the Capitol Police Department, which is a separate police department strictly for the Capitol, to basically catch him with booze. He gets thrown in jail for 6 months.
I also think we had fewer than 435 representatives then.
We did not.
Really?
Yeah.
So we haven't changed since 1920.
Since before then. Yeah, we hit a cap at some point. There was a constitutional amendment to cap it at 435 representatives. He gets arrested. First of all, he gets arrested in 1925. So he's 5 years into his operation at this point. He gets arrested in a green felt hat, which is how he gets to be known as the man in the green hat, which is how Green Hat Gin from DC gets its name.
That's delightful.
It all ties in together very nicely, right?
That's very good.
Yeah.
I'm frankly surprised that he didn't try to pay off the Capitol Police, because that seems like it would have been a really intelligent.
I mean, he may have.
He may have, right? Like, I think
Well, maybe-
there were plenty of Capitol Police that, like, knew what was going on and were turning a blind eye or were getting paid off. I don't know. But, like, at some point,
It
the
just
word
reached a
came
level,
down
yeah.
to, like, no, shut this down.
The last word.
So, but the last word.
Nice.
Well, the thing is, it wasn't the last word. Because he gets out of jail 6 months later.
So Dennis, what are you making?
So I'm making a Ramos Gin Fizz float.
Ooh. Where's the Ramos Gin Fizz from?
The Ramos Gin Fizz is from New Orleans. And it's a fairly old cocktail. I've heard it described as an orange creamsicle. I've changed the drink.
Accurate.
Yeah, I've changed the drink a little bit. There's no orange blossom water in it, so it's not going to have as much of that orange flavor. It's going to have more of a vanilla flavor, and crucially, I did add that float at the end. So we're going to add some ice cream to the top, and then put a bourbon caramel drizzle on it.
Ooh.
Fancy.
Yeah.
What makes a gin fizz a gin fizz?
Woo, that does. That's better.
Yeah, I mean, it's a couple things. There's cream and egg in the drink, which, when shaken thoroughly, cause a good froth to come up. And then, of course, the gin. I'd say it's the combination of those things.
Yeah.
But other things in the drink are some lemon, some lime, some, in this case, vanilla syrup and vanilla extract, and then, of course, that float at the top.
You got some fizz on yourself.
Yeah, all over me, really.
Is that fizz?
Nice. What's in the
very
syrup
tasty.
again?
It's bourbon caramel syrup.
You know what I do for a cocktail? You know my go-to?
What's that?
Gin.
Straight whiskey?
Because that's about all I can do. This morning, I was like, maybe I had too many. I only had 2, but I had a half bottle of wine to start, so maybe that was the mistake.
You had that this morning? A half bottle of wine?
No, last night.
Cheers.
Cheers. So, like, you'll notice it's got like a head of froth that's fairly thick, and then a whole
Can I try
separate
some of
body.
yours with the-
So that head is holding up the ice cream on top. And I encourage you, at some point, about halfway through, I usually like mix it all together and make it like nice and. Did you do
Oops.
that already?
Yeah.
No, I mean, do it
And
whenever
it's
you want.
delicious.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
The chai vanilla is really good. I think the challenge I have is that the chai doesn't
It kind
work
of
as great with the
mutes
citrus.
all the other flavors.
Exactly. It doesn't overpower
You
them,
wanna
but it
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you.
the honey and the almond just like work so well with all of the flavors.
Oh yeah, you're right. They're fighting against each other a little bit. The spices
Yeah.
from the chai and the citrus are like fighting a little bit.
It's delicious.
Yeah, it
it's
is.
just not as delicious. You put together a very nice menu here where the I forget what the Summer in the City was almost like a salad. It was this light, like it was like this light, refreshing thing. It didn't fill you up. You had the
Yes.
last word, which was like, I don't want to say a heavy cocktail, but it was like this powerful flavor, substantive.
Yes. Yeah.
And then we have dessert.
Thank you all for coming out, having gin night with us. Drinks were delicious. I hope you think so. Thank you all for watching and listening. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at dennis@cocktologicalevenings.com. Please like and subscribe below. We really appreciate it, and you'll get to hear about all the new videos coming out. And thank you to Reliable Tavern for hosting us. This has been a lovely experience.
Cheers.
Salute.
Thank you.
All right. Cowabunga!
That's the first time I've been involved in that in like years.
I'm Paul Jamali, and I only drink Canada Dry. Just real.
Kicks. There used to be a Canada Dry commercial that was on during Mad Men back when like